Welcome to episode 6 of Athena Rising, where we pose 36 questions to powerhouse female lawyers. Why 36? Well, that's a number of states who are required to ratify the 19th Amendment and give women the right to vote and take power into our own hands.
Our guest today is Margot Moss, a fierce defender of individuals charged with serious crimes. In fact, she is currently in trial defending Andrew Gillum, the former Democratic contender against Ron DeSantis in 2020.
On this episode, Margot talks about the difficulties she faces in being such a fierce defender in a pro-government justice system.
We're glad you're tuning into our podcast, whether you are an Athena or an ally. Welcome. Ladies, let's rise.
All right. Hi, Marisol. How are you?
Hi, Vanessa. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. It's Friday again, and here we are with Margot Moss.
Hi.
Hi, Margot.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for asking me to do this.
Yes, we are excited to have Margot on. I have known Margot for years now. We have done cases together. We have worked side by side. Unfortunately, we've never had a trial together, so hopefully one day we will. I want to tell you a little bit about Margot before we get started.
Absolutely.
She is a seasoned trial lawyer. She practices in criminal defense. She was a public defender. She is a named partner at Margot Moss. She wins trials. But more than that, she's also the founder of Gideon's Hope, which hopefully she'll tell us a little bit about today. And also soon she's going to be the head of the CJA committee in the Southern District of Florida, which I think is a big accomplishment because I do not recall a woman ever being the head of that committee. So she'll be spearheading that soon.
Yes. And so she is with David Marcus's firm.
Yes.
We don't want David to kill us by having, not giving him name recognition. So yes, she is the Moss of Marcus and Moss, and we're very grateful to have her here today. Thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so grateful to be speaking with you here, and I'm grateful that you guys are doing this. This is such a heavy task to take on, but it's a great thing that you are highlighting women lawyers, women judges, just talking about women and what we do and how difficult our jobs are. So thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. So let's get started.
Let's get started. 36 questions with Margot Moss.
Here we go. So you're a criminal defense attorney. What is it that you really do?
Oh my gosh. I don't know how to answer that question. I mean, I feel like I am a criminal defense attorney. So, but you both know doing this job that it involves being an attorney. It involves being a social worker. It involves being a therapist. It involves, guiding families through the process, a lot of hand holding. So, I mean, it's more than just being an attorney. It's being just an all around I don't know, just a therapist, social worker, professional, friend, and guide to people who are going through this system.
I have to say, Margot, and having, I think out of the three of us, I have the perspective of actually, I don't know if you were a prosecutor, but I have the perspective of having been the prosecutor and now being a defense attorney. And in many ways, exactly for the reasons you just said, this job is so much harder because you have a human as a client, not just the United States or state of Florida, and you play those different roles and have those different hats, and it can be overwhelming. How do you balance it all? And how do you deal with, having all those different hats and knowing when to wear them?
So I don't know that I do balance it all, to be honest with you. I totally agree with you. Being a criminal defense attorney is such an important job, but it's such an incredibly difficult job. I've spoken to people who have said that living a life as a criminal defense attorney is like, doing, how we have 7 years for, and dog years for 1 human year. I feel like that's how criminal defense attorneys live, that we age so much more because of the work we do. We take on the burdens of our clients, who are going through, a horrific time, probably one of the hardest times in their lives. And we shoulder that burden. If you're doing this job, I think the right way, you take on that burden with the client, but you also, you're dealing with these other forces that I think people who don't do this job don't know about. So, we're dealing and I apologize to you, Vanessa, because I know you were a prosecutor, but I will
That's
say,
okay. I have thick skin, as you know.
that, we deal with the government who is often very abusive to us, condescending to us, treats us as if, we're the ones who have committed the criminal offense that's in court. We deal with judges who are the same way, who treat us like we are second-class citizens and who always defer to the government and, don't trust what we have to say. So it's an incredibly difficult job. And we're also dealing with a system that I think is just completely out of control. And the consequences that our clients face, I think people who don't do this job, they don't understand, the crazy amount of time that our clients face. And, when they get that time, how difficult it is to be in prison, how dangerous it can be to be in prison. So, it's an incredibly hard job. And so I know your question was about balance. And again, I don't know that I do balance. I'm very stressed. I have difficulty sleeping. I take sleep aids all the time. I occasionally drink, to try and, ease my mind about these things. I don't know that I exercise like crazy. And I have to do these things in order to balance. But I think what we're doing is so necessary and so important, and that we need people to do this job, to continue to fight the government and to fight the judges and to fight the system and to make the system fair. That, I stick with it. Although I often wonder, and I've told this to Marisol a number of times, like, I don't know how much longer I can do this, but.
Yeah.
Margot, you said so much and I have so many other questions now for you, but the one that's sticking in my mind is it's so hard to do this job. And I feel you, it's so hard every time we lose a case, every time a prosecutor accuses us of wrongdoing, every time, we feel like we're on trial, we're being judged, but yet we still have to represent our clients that, we're put in such dangerous and difficult situations doing this. Why do you keep doing it?
I do it because I love it. I do it because I personally feel a internal desire that we are privileged people. The three of us, I think we are privileged people.
We are.
I come from a family with two parents it was a middle-class family. I always had what I needed. I was raised in a good environment. I was lucky enough to have support. I was lucky enough to be able to go to school, to college, to law school. And so I've been privileged to be able to become a lawyer. And so I feel like, once we have achieved this, we have an obligation to give back. We have an obligation to serve. And I think in this job in particular, as a criminal defense attorney, we are serving our clients, and we are also, and people make fun of this, but we are upholding the Constitution. We are fighting back against the government to make sure that they don't have this unauthorized, unwieldy power. So I do it because I love it. I feel the need to do it. And because it's such an important job and we need more people doing this.
So you talked a little bit about the system being very overwhelming, and that system, is the criminal justice system is what I take you to mean. And, I think prosecutors and defense attorneys can agree, even though prosecutors can't openly agree. But I can tell you, I know many friends who share this thought. The system does need to be fixed. There are problems with, a criminal justice system that punishes so heavily for crimes that are, as you just said, some people may not have had the economic choice or the upbringing to have made. Today, Tyree Nichols's video is going to be released. And what's surprising to me and shocking to me, and I had a conversation with someone yesterday about this, is the officers that are charged there are all Black officers. This is not a white officer, Black victim case, but it signals to, I think, those of us who operate in the criminal justice sphere, there's a problem institutionally. It's not, racism is a huge part of it, but there's an institutional problem with policing and the criminal justice system. I just want to know, what are some of your thoughts? It's so overwhelming to think about how you could fix and revamp and rehaul. the criminal justice system. But I just want to know, like, if you had one thing that you could say, this is what we need to start with and tackling, what would that be?
Well, first of all, I want to start off by saying that these are not easy questions. You said at the beginning of this interview that we would have easy questions. And these are not easy questions.
The fun stuff comes at the end of the program. Did Marisol not tell you that?
There's, I can't think of any one thing. What I do think we need prosecutors who have perspective, to have a very young prosecutor who doesn't know the world, who doesn't know what it is to be poor, who doesn't know what it is to be harassed by police, who doesn't know what it's like to not afford bond, who doesn't know what it's like to actually be in a jail cell. I think we need prosecutors who have some perspective and some life experience. I think we need prosecutors and judges going into jail cells, going into prisons, talking to people who have experienced this, talking to people who are living through this, just becoming more educated about this. Those are things that come to mind right now.
If you could give a young federal prosecutor a piece of advice, what would it be?
Don't become a prosecutor. Become a defense attorney.
No.
All federal prosecutors should first be defense attorneys so they can see it from our side, so they can see that we're representing a human being. I think from and I'm generalizing here, but I think from being judges, from being prosecutors, you can't help but see things as a numbers game, as a set of guidelines, as a terrible offense. But when you see it from our side, and I'm sure your experiencing this now, Vanessa, we're dealing with a human being, and human beings are very complex, right? Human beings can be very good and yet do make mistakes or do bad things occasionally, but there's much more to the, what's going on than this one offense. And so you have to see it as a whole. So I forget which judge had said that, they thought also that all federal prosecutors should at one time be defense attorneys. And I agree with that.
Yeah, it was probably Judge Chernoff.
And I don't mean to be anti-prosecutor here. I'll just leave it at that.
No,
fine. Don't worry.
It was probably Judge Chernoff. I do remember him saying that, when I was a baby prosecutor, I remember him saying he was very tough on granting the government's request for detention. As you may remember, he was a great judge. And he would often say, it's not that you haven't met the burden, it's that, putting someone in jail is very difficult, and because you don't understand what you're asking for because you've never experienced it. And so I hear you. What I will say though, and then we'll shift to something a little bit more fun, right? The easier question, so to speak, is, prosecutors are operating, having worn that hat for a very long time, a decade. I would often tell people there's only so much I can do. I can't, as a federal prosecutor, especially, there is a hierarchy and there's a bureaucracy that exists at the U.S. Attorney's Office, and the rules are in place for a reason, and statutes are in place for a reason. And I'm not a legislature, right? I didn't pass the statute. I didn't pass the mandatory minimum requirements. I didn't pass the guidelines. I wasn't in charge when Booker came down, right? And so I think that for a lot of prosecutors, they try to do the best they can within the confines that they exist in. But, and I come back to this point of, I don't know if it should be an advisory circle between prosecutors and defense attorneys, but I do think much more needs to happen between the two groups, if you will, to effectuate change, recognizing that there's only so much that can be done.
Well, I'm going to push back a little bit on that, Vanessa, and I'm sorry to interrupt you and you too, Marisol, but, we all make choices. We make choices what we are going to do, what career we're going to take. So, if a prosecutor feels that limited and that restricted, that's, their choice that they're making to do that job. I would also say that, prosecutors, maybe their office says, oh, you have to recommend guidelines when you go to the to the sentencing hearing, but there are ways to convey how you do that. And there are ways to send a message to the judge that maybe you feel differently. And I think not enough prosecutors do that. They feel like they have to toe the line. They feel like they have to do what their supervisors are telling them. So, I think it's all a choice, and there's a way to handle it. And I'm sure that you as a prosecutor did do those things, Vanessa, but a lot of them don't.
I will just add, and I tell Vanessa this all the time. She was in the special prosecution unit,
Yes.
which operates very differently than the rest of the office. And so I sometimes hear about things that she did. And I just experienced it recently where I have a CJA case in the special prosecution unit, and they gave me all the janks, all the discovery. They made hot docs for my client. I mean, do you ever get that, Margot, on any of our cases, on our economic fraud cases?
I mean, it's rare, Maricel, but the fact that we're shocked that this happens, that should say something, right? We should not be shocked. This should be the norm. This should happen in every case. So it's terrible that we have to say, can you believe it? No, that's the way it should be. I worked for many years in the state system as a state PD, and we get full discovery. You get the witness list from day one. You get the discovery from day one. You get to take depositions. Why do we have to play hide the ball? If this is an open, free, fair system, just tell us, just give it to us. We shouldn't be shocked and surprised when we get a good prosecutor. That should be the norm.
And sometimes if they're just open with us, I feel like you'll get a resolution maybe faster. Like if you just tell us, we might say to our client, listen, you have to plead guilty because it doesn't look good. Don't tell me on the first day of trial.
Right.
But
yeah. Well, now that I feel sufficiently beat up, no, it's okay. But it's good to know. It's good to know that I was a good prosecutor. This makes me happy. And look, I do really think that there are a lot. I know that there are so many more good prosecutors than bad prosecutors. I think that, a lot needs to be done to change, if you will, the systems in which we operate. I don't have the solutions. I don't know if any of us have those solutions.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really tall task, but I'm glad we're having these conversations, because I do think that that's important in seeing different perspectives and understanding what can be done. We're going to shift a little bit. Your husband is a public defender. How do you guys manage that? That seems like a lot, with you doing what you do and him being, equally as busy, trying a lot of cases, having to deal with clients as well. How do you guys manage it all?
Well, it's great actually, because we both do the same thing. We understand what the other person is going through. So when the other person is in trial, I know, with my husband, leave him alone, let him do what he needs to do. The same with me. Or, if we need to talk through an issue, I can talk to him because he knows the issues. He knows, how to work through facts, and he knows the law. So, I mean, it's great for those reasons. Now, it's hard because there's very little separation between home life and work life. It's pretty much just all work. But we are pretty much all work people anyway. So it's worked well for us. It's been great for us. And I have the greatest husband in the world.
That's wonderful.
You and your husband created Gideon's Hope. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, I'd love to talk about Gideon's Hope. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying before about, how we are privileged people and how it's important for us to give back. And this kind of goes back to my roots, because I started my career as a criminal defense attorney, as a lawyer at the Miami-Dade Public Defender's Office. And it was the best job in the world. It's where I learned to be a lawyer. It's where I learned to try cases. It's where I learned how to deal with judges. It's where I learned how to be a human with my clients. And it's just a great place. The one horrible thing about it is you're paid almost nothing. You're paid very little to do a very, very difficult and important job. And so for many years, Kevin and I talked about creating this organization, and we had spoken a lot with Bennett Brummer, who is the former PD, who also had this same idea, that we wanted to have a nonprofit that would raise money and that we would give scholarships to young, dedicated, committed, skilled, and needy assistant public defenders. So this would supplement their salary, which is very low, but give them a little bit of a bump that would enable them to stay at the office and continue doing that good work that they are doing as public servants and defending the indigent in our community. So we've been incredibly lucky that we've had so many people support the organization. We've had, I think, over 200 donors who give money on a regular basis. We've built up this incredible balance so that we're able to do this for years and years to come. And this is our 8th year now that we're going to be giving out scholarships to young assistant public defenders to help them stay at their jobs and do the good work that they do.
That's incredible. I didn't even know you were doing this. That's awesome.
It's a big part of what I do and what I love, and it's a lot of work. We spend a lot of time on it, but it's so rewarding and it's important. PDs don't make a lot of money.
Right. They don't. So having had the career you've had, I mean, you're a woman powerhouse, you're a woman trial attorney. I mean, how many trials have you done?
Probably about 120 or so.
That's a lot, Margot. You are a trial powerhouse. Imposter syndrome is a very real thing that we women face. How do you overcome that? If you've ever faced it, how do you deal with that in your trials? Can you just tell us a little bit about what you go through?
Sure. I'm still waiting for the easy questions, but a lot of how I function is based on fear, right? I don't want to fail my client. I don't want to make a fool out of myself in front of David Marcus, in front of a jury, in front of judges, in front of prosecutors who might be looking down at me. So I work very hard. I feel like I'm not the smartest person in the room, and I never will be the smartest person in the room, but I can outwork people. And, I can prepare and I can out-prepare people. And I have passion and I can bring, passion to the table. But, most of what I do, it's based on fear that I am an imposter.
You're not. I'm just telling you.
Well,
Really
I appreciate you saying that. But it's part of my personality. I don't think that's something that's ever going to go away. And I think it's a good thing, partially at least, to work off of fear and to face that fear and to, force yourself to do these things. But, it's not something that I'm ever going to be able to overcome. I think it's just who I am.
What is the worst experience you've had practicing law?
I've had clients jerk off in front of me.
Oh my gosh.
No, you haven't. No, you haven't. Oh my God. That's only happened to me on the New York City subway. My God.
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, I probably shouldn't have said that.
We loved it. That's the honesty we're looking for.
Yes, there you go.
I think sometimes I get carried away in court, and I've definitely been yelled at in court by judges and embarrassed by judges. And probably rightfully so. And so that's a horrible experience. I'll tell you, anytime I have a client who is sentenced to something more than I think, and even though we're trying a lot of white collar cases, our clients are facing sentences that are the equivalent of a murder sentence or a rape sentence. And it is a horrible moment every time that happens to one of my clients. So I can't recall one horrible moment, just many. And this sounds very sad, but yes, there's many of them.
Okay. So what's the funniest jury note you've ever received?
So I used to try a lot of cases in domestic violence court. And so I tried a battery case once, and it's a very, very straightforward offense.
Yes.
I don't even remember the facts of the case, but the jury went out and they seemed to be having a hard time deliberating and coming to a resolution. And I think they had been out about 6 hours, and then they sent a note back saying, "What was the charge again?"
Oh my gosh.
And so, we kind of were in disbelief about that, but that's got to be one of the weirdest notes I've gotten.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Margot, you don't have any children. Do you ever feel judged by that decision not to have children?
So, I'll say this. No one's ever said anything to me. They've never been rude enough to say anything to me, but I do feel, and maybe this is just all in my mind, maybe this is just my irrational, crazy mind thinking. I do feel judged. Once in a while, I feel judged, like, what's wrong with her? Why doesn't she have children? Doesn't she want children? That's very weird. I feel judged in that way. And maybe, again, maybe that's true or not true. I don't know. And I also think I have felt during my career, and I've been doing this, wow, I think almost 27 years, at times that people think, oh, she doesn't have kids, so she can work on the weekends. She can work till midnight. She can,
A lot of my other friends too.
do this job because she doesn't have a life. She doesn't have things to do outside of this, which is totally not true. I have a life, and I have things that I love to do, and I don't want to work 24 hours a day. So, I felt it, but again, I don't know if I'm just making it up or whether it's real or not.
So I hear that you have a bachelor's in music, and now we're moving into the fun questions that you've looked forward to,
Yes.
Margot. So here we are. Okay. So you have a bachelor's in music. What instrument do you play?
I was a classical pianist.
Wow.
Yes. My sister played piano, and my sister's 5 years older than me, and she started at a young age. So I always just wanted to do what my sister was doing. So I begged and begged and begged to be able to start piano lessons. And then once I did, I fell in love with it. I ended up going to a performing arts high school. I ended up getting my bachelor's and then my master's in music. And it was just a huge passion of mine. It was just, again, kind of my way of, I like to perform. I like to, in my way, I think I'm giving back in some way. And I just love classical music. I love to, show passion and emotion. And so that was my passion and my love for many, many years.
Do you still play?
I play occasionally. I do have a piano at home that my husband got me. Although I'll tell you, I had a piano when I was in law school, but in order to pay for the bar, I had to sell my piano to put on my bar application. So a few years after that, my husband bought me a piano. But I do play occasionally, but it's, Marisol, I'm sure you understand this as being a dancer or anybody who is an athlete, that if you don't keep it up at that high level, you lose the skill. And so it's frustrating to me to play now because I can't play at the level that I used to be able to play, and I don't have the time to put in to devote to that. So it's very frustrating to me, but I will play now on occasion, mostly, for my husband.
Oh,
Well, I hope you do. It sounds like you really love it.
Yeah.
If you had a boat, what would you name it?
Probably Gideon's Hope.
Oh,
Okay.
yes,
That's a good one.
that makes sense.
Mhm.
Although I would never have a boat, I get incredibly seasick, so that won't happen.
There's Dramamine. There's Dramamine. There you
I've
go.
tried Dramamine, doesn't work for me.
Okay. What's the best compliment you've ever received?
I think anytime I get a compliment from a juror or a judge or client about doing a good job with my work, that's a huge compliment for me. And let me just also say, just on the chance that my husband listens to this, that my husband compliments me all the time. And, you know, of course it's wonderful, but, you know, it's really the ones about my job that do it for me.
That's understandable because we work so hard.
Yeah. When are you most inspired?
When am I most inspired?
Yes, when?
So maybe this is sad because it's always coming back to my work, but when I see a really good trial lawyer do something, like I have the best job because I have had a front seat at watching some of the most incredible trial lawyers, beginning with David Marcus. David Marcus, if you've never seen him, he is a born trial lawyer, a born cross-examiner. He is just unbelievable to watch him cross-examine, and you see his mind, you know, spinning, and you see, you know, his thoughts going, and to be able to watch that and have a front seat at that is just unbelievable, and it's so inspiring. You know, I've been very lucky in the past year that I've gotten to work with incredible people like Barry Pollock and Sean Hecker and Jenna Dabbs in New York, and to see these super smart, passionate, skilled defense lawyers work is very inspiring to me. I love it.
So we're going to get you away from work for a second.
Okay.
What is your favorite vacation spot?
So I think Marisol knows is my happy place is in Italy.
Oh, nice.
I love Italy. I love going there. My husband and I have gone a number of times. We are very fortunate and lucky enough to own a place there with another couple. So
where in Italy do you own a place?
It's in Tuscany, in a
Oh,
tiny,
wow.
tiny little town in Tuscany. And I just love it there. I love being outside there. I love eating the food there, drinking the wine. I love it there. That is my happy place. But I've been to traveling in general is my passion, and it's what I live and work for.
Yeah.
Yes, many of us do.
Me too.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's one thing that people don't know about you?
Well, I think what my real claim to fame is, if anybody's seen the movie Moonlight, which I think won the Oscar
Yeah, I've seen
Best
it.
Movie in 2017, Moonlight was filmed at my house in Miami Beach.
Really?
Yes.
Now
So
I'm gonna go
really,
rewatch it just because you said that.
oh, it's such a great movie.
It is
I
a great
love,
movie.
love that movie. The fact that they picked my house as where the drug dealer lives, you know, is kind of funny, but I love that. And so that is probably something that a lot of people do not know about me.
Okay, I have to ask, how did that come to be? Do you submit your house or what happens?
So we, our neighbor
Mhm.
has a son who is in the film industry and
Okay.
makes movies. And he knew the director, Barry Jenkins, who was looking for a place to film part of this movie. And my neighbor's house was not going to work because it was much too nice. So they recommended our house. And so the director came and he looked at our house a few times. And I think he looked at other houses in the neighborhood, but he ultimately picked our house. And of course, I mean, it has nothing to do with me or anything I did, but you know, it's just very cool.
That is very,
Very
very,
cool.
very cool.
Now, were you paid to have your house in the movie?
we were paid, but only paid because we had to move out of the house and we had to go to a hotel for several weeks.
Yeah.
So we were just paid for that kind of inconvenience, but not
Okay.
necessarily paid for the house. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, if you had to pick someone to play you in a movie, let's say a movie's about you, who would you pick?
Mm.
Oh gosh. I don't know. Do you guys have any ideas?
Girl, I would pick J-Lo, but that is
She
like
loves J-Lo.
I love J-Lo, so don't ask me.
I would pick
okay?
Penelope Cruz because I love her. I want that accent.
I love both of them. I'm thinking, I'm probably about the age of Selma Hayek. I don't look anything like
Oh,
Selma
and
Hayek.
she's
Oh, yes.
really hot.
Yes,
Did you
yes.
see her? She was
Yeah.
on the runway yesterday in Miami for some
Oh, really?
some movie. I think it's like one of those Mike movies.
Oh yeah, Magic Mike. Yes, yes.
Yes, she was
Oh,
at a
yes.
Magic Mike premiere
Yes.
in Miami, and she looks amazing. Oh my God, she looks
Yeah.
amazing.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't look anything.
You look
like that,
amazing. Stop
You
it.
are amazing.
but I love her, and we're about the same age, so I'd be okay with that.
Yes, I
Yes.
think that's a great choice.
What is one thing you wish people could see more about you or recognize more about you?
Oh gosh, these are not easy questions. I'm very serious at work, but I like to have fun. I like to, play jokes and be funny. And I think that does not come out very often. I'm not a very talkative person. So, but, I like to be social, but I'm an introvert at the same time. So I need people to draw me out of my shell. So, yeah, I don't know, just more fun.
More wine nights with
Yeah.
Margot. That's my
Well,
takeaway from
And,
what you
and
just
Marisol
said.
knows that because Marisol and I got together last Thursday, and Marisol
did.
probably thought I was a lunatic because we had a couple of drinks. Actually, I only had like half a drink, and Marisol saw that I got completely drunk on half a drink.
No way.
So yeah, wine definitely helps.
It was
Maybe-
the best time. I loved it. I
I
really
had
enjoyed our time
so
together.
much fun. Yeah,
Maybe
Yeah.
we're gonna have wine night with Athena Rising.
We
How
do.
about that?
We
There
need
you
to do
go.
that.
that would be great. Tequila shots.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yes, you just took it to another
Yeah.
level. There you go. So, what's the best advice you've ever received, and that something you would pass on to other women lawyers?
I mean, it's something that everybody says, and but I believe in is just be yourself. A lot of what we do is we in this industry is we copy, and we take, good things from other people, but you have to make it your own. If you try to do it like somebody else did it, it's not going to be genuine. It's going to look fake. It's not going to be real. And so you just have to be yourself. I think that's probably the best advice.
Do you have a regret?
I often regret doing this work. Yeah,
Yeah.
If you weren't doing this work, what would you be doing?
I'd be making bread in Italy.
There you go. It's not a bad.
I might have done something more artistic, or I could have done something completely opposite of that. I could have gone into finance. I often think about what I want to do in my next career and for the rest of my life, and I'm still figuring that out.
We're all trying to figure out what we're going to be when we grow up. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It's not just
Yeah.
you.
What is one place that you want to visit that is on your bucket list that you have not been to?
Do I have to limit it to one? Because there's so many. So my husband and I are planning a trip now to go to Egypt because I really want to see the pyramids. I want to go to see the Nile. I want to see Petra in Jordan. I want to see Chile. I really want to go to Japan. My mother is from Japan. She's Japanese. And so I'm dying to go to Japan. We're planning to do that in a couple of years. I really want to go to New Zealand. So there are so many places that there's a lot of places on my bucket list.
Egypt will not disappoint. I went years ago, and we did the Nile, and I will tell you, it's you realize how uh minuscule you are in the grand scheme of life, the universe, everything.
Yeah.
And sometimes we need to be reminded of that, and it will not disappoint. I'm glad you're going there. What are some of the superstitions or rituals you have when you get ready for a trial?
So every time I get a bad verdict, I say I can't wear that suit or that dress ever again. Particularly for when I'm taking a verdict. That can't happen again. I can't wear dark, really dark or black when I'm taking a verdict, because that's like, in my mind, a signal to the jury that I think badly about this case.
That you're going to go into mourning or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
I listen to very specific music when I'm trying to get my head into the space for trial, to get focused. I have a very set routine in the morning that I go through, and I'm very slow and methodical about it. I think probably like a lot of lawyers, like a lot of performers, entertainers, whatever, we're very superstitious. And so I usually adopt a routine and I stick to it. And I feel like, something bad is going to happen if I go off track.
What is the specific music you listen to?
So it's by Samuel Barber. It's called the Adagio for Strings. And if you've ever seen the movie Platoon, it's played in Platoon, and people probably associate it with very sad moments in movies. But for me, it's just very calming and very peaceful, and just calms me down and lets me breathe normally and just gets me into the right mindset.
So what's the best? You said you've watched some of the best, you've had a front row seat to David and watched some amazing lawyers. What's the best opening or closing that you've ever seen where you were just like, wow?
The best opening I've ever seen, and this is completely honest, was my husband, Kevin Hellman. He tried a manslaughter case, and it was a incredibly sad case where a young man was with his girlfriend, who he loved very much. He had a sawed-off shotgun and wasn't trying to do anything. They were just like playing around, and he accidentally shot and killed his girlfriend. And he had gone outside afterwards and was, the police were coming, and he was holding the gun to himself. And so Kevin did an opening where he reenacted this whole thing, and he was lying on the floor in the courtroom and demonstrating how this all happened. And the jury was in tears. I was in tears. The judge was in tears. And I mean, the case was over after that.
Wow.
So, and I'm getting in tears now. That was incredibly powerful. I've seen David do incredible closings. He's just so passionate, and he's so strong, and he tells these incredible stories. So I've seen him do a number of those. So it's not really just one. I also saw Howard Shrebnick when he was doing a closing for, he represented the sister of Elio Castroneves. And he was giving this closing argument, and he was reciting the words from I think it's called The Wind Beneath Your Wings or something like that. And he was just reciting the lyrics from this song, but it was so moving and so powerful, and it was very effective. So that was also great.
Wow, that's interesting. I've never seen a lawyer recite like a song, like lyrics from a song before in a closing. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'll have to find that transcript.
Yeah. And it demonstrated like, this is what the sister was doing for her brother. And so this is how the sister supported. It was just, the tie-in, both of you know, we try these white collar cases. So we try these tax cases, healthcare fraud cases, the most boring cases in the world.
Yeah.
So anytime that you can bring it back to emotion and bring it back to, some sort of human feeling and
Yes.
try to move the jury, that's the most effective and powerful closing.
You connect
Mhm.
with them as
Yeah.
people.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So what would you tell 20-year-old Margot, having had this great career, still having a great career, having done all the things you've done in your life, what would you tell her?
I think I would tell her that you're good enough, that you can do this, that don't listen to the haters. The haters are not out there to help you, that you are good enough. And I sound like Stuart Smiley when I say that, but I think that's what I would say, and I see this with my young relatives and other people, that they're such self-doubters. Unfortunately, with young women and older women, we're such self-doubters, and we're so insecure about things, and we need more confidence. And you need to know that you are great the way you are.
I teared up when you said that, because I think that resonates with so many women.
It does.
And it's really powerful.
Margot, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Baking bread?
Baking bread in Tuscany. Are we
bread
gonna
in
come
Italy.
visit? Are we
Yes.
gonna be the
It's
Under
true.
the Tuscan Sun movie?
Maybe,
Is that what's gonna happen?
maybe 2 years.
Yes. You know what?
Yeah.
Your house in Tuscany can be for Under the Tuscan Sun Part 2. There
Yeah.
you go.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
what's gonna happen with you baking bread.
Yes.
So we have one last question for you, and then we're at the end. If there is, anything else that you'd say to young women entering the profession, especially young women of color, right? Lawyers that want to be litigators, trial lawyers, civil, on the civil side, whatever. What would you tell them?
I tell them to learn from my mistakes, to don't sit quietly in the room, speak up. You have a voice, and your voice deserves to be heard. And you have important things to say, and people should be listening to you. So don't be quiet, and, just make sure you get that seat at the table, because nobody's going to hand it to you. You have to take it, and you have to make your voice heard.
I love it. Margot,
Fantastic.
thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Margot. We really appreciate it. We had a great time.
And it was
Thank
great to
you
get
so
to know
much.
you better.
Yes, Vanessa, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be all down on prosecutors, but
No, don't worry.
Hey, it's okay. You know what? I think that part of the reason we do this is for these real conversations, and to have people understand different perspectives and build dialogue from there. So it's appreciated.
so thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's been
Yeah.
a ton of fun.
Yes.
Bye.